So, what is the greatest commandment? If you were to take all of the commandments in the Old Testament, what is the greatest one? And we have an answer to that. You may think it might be this or it might be that, but Jesus actually tells us what the greatest commandment is, and it's in our reading today. I want to remind you, I've not done it in a while, but make sure you read the passage ahead of time and try to find your own space, your own sin to avoid, a promise to claim, attitude to change, command to obey, or an example to follow. Try to find one of those yourself, and let the Lord guide you and direct you in the particular areas that He wants to minister to you. But in this one, we see a command to obey, and what happens to be this is the greatest commandment that Jesus says. Now, we start off the chapter by saying, "Now, this is the commandment, the statutes, and the rules that the Lord your God commanded me to teach you." I'm going to tell you the rules that God told me to tell you. And then we have here in verse 5, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might." This is what Jesus states is the greatest commandment in the Bible. And he says the second one is like it: love your neighbor as yourself. So love the Lord your God with everything that is within you, because you see, this commandment is the foundation, and it is the source for obeying all other commands. If you love the Lord, you love Him with all of your heart. When you love Him with all of your soul, when you love Him with all of your might, that means you'll actually love the things that He says. You'll love the things that He commands. So when you commit to follow after Him and when you commit to love Him, you are going to love all the other commands that come from Him, because you know that He has your best in mind. He is working together, as Romans 8 tells us. He works together all things for good. So we have to trust that He's going to do that. And when we love the Lord, then we follow His commands. So that is why Jesus says this is the number one commandment. And these rules, these words that Moses is going to command the Israelites, they are supposed to be taught diligently to the children. We do it while we're walking and when we're lying down and when we're rising. It says we're even supposed to tie them on our hand, and we are to write them on the doorposts of our house and on our gates. We're always supposed to remind ourselves of the commands of the Lord. How are you doing that? How are you putting Scripture in your face? And how are you talking about the Bible and God's principles and His commands? How are you putting that in front of you? Then we look down here at verse 12. Another command. It says, "Take care lest you forget the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery." Remember all of these rules that I give you, and why don't you take care, because you might forget me, God is saying. And we know in reality, historically, the Israelites forgot their Lord. They ran away from their God and they ran after other gods, and they suffered the consequences of doing such a thing. Verse 14 says, "You shall not go after other gods." In fact, that's the very first of the 10 commandments. "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." The second one is that you shall not make a graven image. You shall not make an idol to worship. And the Israelites, their history, the Old Testament is littered with them going after other gods. They did not do that. Number 16, verse 16, "You shall not put the Lord your God to the test." The Israelites put the Lord their God to the test time after time. We don't even get that far along in the Old Testament before it happens. It happens in the book of Judges. In fact, one of the main themes of judgment is this cycle of disobedience and God punishing His people and causing them to experience the consequences of their sins. Indeed, the Israelites put the Lord their God to the test. This command they were not able to follow. And then Moses gives them an admonition in verse 20, "When your son asks you in time to come, what's the meaning of these rules and all these laws?" Well, your response to them is supposed to be, "We used to be slaves in Egypt, but God brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand." God is so good. He is wonderful to us, and He saved us, and we are going to follow after Him, because we believe that His rules for us will lead to our own prosperity, will lead to our own good. That's what you're supposed to tell your children. And here's a dreadful reality that we realize in our soul, is that as we look at the law and as we understand the law, we realize that within our own ability, within our flesh, as the Apostle Paul says, we have no ability to carry out the law, because sin, when it receives the law, actually gets even worse. It takes advantage of the law and then seems to do it even more. So that the Apostle Paul will even say that I know what to do, but I don't have the power to carry it out. The law actually helps us realize that we cannot live righteously on ourselves. And here's what verse 25 says: it will be righteousness for us if we are careful to do all this commandment before the Lord our God as he had commanded us. That is a true statement. It would have been righteousness for the nation of Israel if they would obey the law completely and perfectly, but they did not. It would be righteousness for you and me if you could obey the Ten Commandments completely and perfectly, but you cannot. Therefore, we need something else. In fact, we need someone else. And we know that someone else is Jesus Christ, who came and lived the perfect life, obeyed the law, and then gave us the benefits of his obedience while taking our punishment and taking the consequences that should come our way. I pray that that has been a blessing to you, and I pray that you will love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind, and that you will trust the Spirit to do that work in your heart, to transform you, to do the things that he's asked us to do. And I'll see you all in the next video.